Hey, welcome back again, another Tutorial Tuesday, and today is going to be all about how to resize frames to fit the photos on your layouts without stretching them and making them warped looking. So here is a layout that I have done, and it's using a Design House Digital kit, a collab kit called Family Time. And in this kit there is a really cute frame that I would love to include on my page. So I'm going to drop it in so that you can see what it looks like. And it has the word remember, and it's just really sweet. And I can undo that. I can resize this frame to fit my photo if I would like to. Let's see, let me see how this is rotated. If you right click on this photo, it will tell me it's rotated -3 degrees. So now I can right click on my frame and rotate that -3 degrees also, so they're rotated the same. And then I should be able to line it up. And it looks like it needs to get a little bit shorter. And there it is. And then over here in my layers palette, I can drag it down so that it's just on top of the photo. And it could be done. But if you see, this remember word looks really tall, stretched out. Not how I want it to look. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that frame that we just put in, and I'm going to show you a trick, a way to do it a little bit better so that you don't run into having to stretch things out. So I'm going to add that frame again, and I'm going to bring it in. And just for a minute I'm going to unrotate my photo so that everything is nice and straight. I'll just remember -3, and I can always go back later, so I'll put it at 0 and I'll straighten it out. And now I'm going to kind of position this frame where I would like it to be. I'm going to use my shift button so that I don't warp it, and I'm going to get it as close as I can to the right size. Now you see that that is about as close as I'm going to get, so you can see it's too short. Now to fix that, I'm going to cut this frame into 3 different pieces. I'm going to stretch the middle piece, and I'm going to flatten it all back together, and that will give me a nice frame that's the right size without stretching out my word here. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to cut and fill. I usually just use shapes. I don't know, I like to use these rectangles. And I'm going to cut just a little bit off the top of my frame. I don't want to get rid of that, so I will keep both sections and say cut. So now if you look over here on your layers palette, you can see that you have the bottom part of your frame and you have the top part of your frame. And I'm going to just use my arrow buttons and move that up. If I click on it and try to drag with my mouse, I might like shift it to the left or the right, and I want to keep it lined up. So I'm just going to drag it up like that to where I think it should be, so right about there. Now we just need to fill in this gap here. And again, if I stretch this up, I'm going to stretch out my word. You can see how the remember stretches out if I pull it up. I don't want to do that, so let's undo. If I stretch this down, it's going to change the curvature here, and it won't match the curving at the bottom. So that's not what I want to do either. You can see how that looks funny too. So let's undo that. So instead I'm going to click on this bottom part because that's where I have a lot of room in here. I'm going to cut again. So I'm going to use another rectangle, and I'm going to just cut. You don't need much, just I don't know, like that or so. Keep both sections again. And so now I have this middle part, you can see right here, that just has a little piece on the left and the right. It doesn't include any top or bottom. So now with that selected, I'm going to stretch it up to meet the top one, make sure it's stretched down to meet the bottom one, and I'm going to select all 3 of those pieces and flatten it back together. And now you have one complete frame, nothing is stretched out. And now we can rotate. So I'm going to click on my photo again, and I will go back to properties and rotate it back again -3. I will do the same with my frame, -3. And then I still need to drop my frame down so that it's just on top of my photo. And there it is. It's perfectly placed, perfectly sized. I didn't have to stretch out my words at all. So that's how you would do it. You can just cut your frame if you need it to be bigger into 3 spots, stretch out the middle spot, and you're good to go. Another layout that I'm going to do this on is down here. So just let it save for a second and then I will show you. Sometimes if your frame ends up bigger than your photo, you can just cut and make it smaller, and then you only need to cut into 2 pieces instead of 3. Just make it work for you without having to stretch out your frame. So this layout is not anywhere near done yet, but I'm working on it. It's a template from She Creates, and the kit is one of Jen Allison's kits at DHD. And I have her kit open right. Let me get back in here. I have her kit open right here, and there's this really neat Polaroid frame. So I'm going to drag that into my layout. And you can see that it's got a squarish opening, so it's not going to fit my rectangular photo at all, but I can make it fit. So I'm going to take a minute and unrotate this. It's just easier to work with. Just remember -10 for me. So I'll put that back at 0. And I'm going to put my frame where I would like it. Now if I stretch it without holding down Shift to fit like that, you can just see that it gets a little bit stretched out. This side is a little bit thicker than the top. It just doesn't look quite how I want it to look. So I'm going to go like that instead, and I'm going to stretch it as much as I can. You can stretch it all that way if you'd like, and then we'll cut out the extra part. Or if you'd rather, we can stretch it to fit vertically, and then we will add a little bit in the middle. So I'll do that. So again, I'll go cut and fill shapes, grab my rectangle. I'm going to cut off this time a little bit of the right side. So I'll just come over here and cut, keep both sections. And then I can move my right side over along the right edge where I want it to be. I'm just holding down the right arrow button right now. There it is. And now I'm going to go back here and cut the middle part out so that I can stretch the middle to fit. So keep both sections again. And I'm going to stretch it a little bit to the left to match back up again. And a little bit to the right to match up there. And you can see it looks like there's little lines there, but as soon as you flatten it, that will go away and there won't be any seams. So we can flatten those 3 together. And you can see it all went away. Everything's lined up perfectly. I can drag that down to where my photo is. So let me go grab my frame and put it on top of my photo. At this point, after you flattened it, you can add a shadow. Don't add a shadow until after it's been flattened. And there you go. There's your Polaroid. And so now I can grab that same frame again, if I want, and come down here and put it on this photo also. So I'm going to unrotate this. Well, let's rotate this back out first. This was -10. And let's do the frame also. Okay, and so now I'm going to unrotate this photo just for a little bit. Right now it's at 11. Okay, and I'm going to drag this down, and I'm going to show you the other way to do it. So if I match it up, instead of matching it up vertically like I did last time and then adding more to the frame, I'm going to match it up horizontally and just delete some. So you can see I just have some empty space down here. So that's fine. This is actually going to save us some time because I will only have to do one cut. So now I'm going to cut a shape. So I'll use my square again, and I'm going to just cut somewhere in the middle like that and keep both sections again. So now I have this bottom section and I have a top section, and you can see over here that they're cut into 2. And I'm going to take the bottom and just using my up arrow button, I'm sliding it up so that it'll match up with the bottom of the photo. And you can even make it a little bit shorter if you want, it doesn't really matter. And so now I can click on the top frame, flatten them together, add my shadow, and then I can rotate. So I'll rotate my photo back to 11 how it was. and my frame also to 11. And everything should line up perfectly. I didn't have to stretch anything out, warp anything. It looks perfect there. So now if you look at how it will print, I'm going to lose a little bit on the bottom of that photo, but that's kind of how I like it. If you wanted to move it up a little bit, you could. Just move them together so you can still see the bottom corner of the photo. And then I can finish my page from here. So when you're working with photo frames, obviously it's not going to work if you have a lot of embellishments on your frame. So if you're working with a frame, let me get you an example. If you're working with a frame like this, you're not going to be able to do that. Let me make it bigger so you can see what it looks like. That's not going to be able to be stretched or shrunk down or cut and put back together at all, because you're going to lose the flow of the edges. But this technique works really well if you have simple, clean frames. Like you could do it with this one. That would be a very easy one. If you wanted it to be like for a tall portrait photo, you would just cut this right down the middle, slide one slide over, and then flatten it back down. So let me just show you real quickly. I'll add it to the page. I don't have a photo for it right now, but if you did have a photo for it, let's say that you had a tall vertical photo that you wanted in there. I'll just add a photo in just for the heck of it. Okay, so let's say you wanted this photo in there. Again, you would take this frame, you would cut and fill, cut it with a shape, and I'm going to cut just right across the middle like that. Keep both sections, and then you can take one of the sections, so I'm going to take the right side and I'm going to slide it over just using my left arrow button until it lines up with the right side of the photo that I would like it to. And there you go. And then I can flatten it, and it's one big photo, and then I can add my shadow or whatever else I would like to do to it. If I had taken that photo or that frame, so let me get rid of that. Let's just hide it for a moment. And I'm going to add this one again. And this time let's just stretch it using our corners. Okay, so that's one option. And that's the easy option, I guess, just stretching it to fit. But look at how that looks compared to that. Just, it looks a lot cleaner. I guess I didn't make it quite the same size. But it looks a lot cleaner and sized better if you actually take the time to cut and fill and reposition and stretch it out that way instead of just using the corners. Okay, so good luck. Let me see how it goes. I'd love to see your pages once you get one done. Thanks a lot. See you next week.